So a couple of months ago, when I was creating the idea of having these videos on spiritual dilemmas, I FaceTimed with my niece in Chicago, Megan, who's about 30 something. And I said, hey, here's what I'm doing around this spiritual dilemma issues. And she goes, well, I'm not really that spiritual. And she said, I don't go to church anymore on Sundays, but I feel bad that I don't go to church on Sundays. She said, I still don't eat meat on Fridays because that's just a pattern that I've done. But other than that, I don't think about spirituality. In fact, some of my friends are atheists, so we don't talk about spirituality. So I'm really just not that spiritual. So I don't know why you're talking to me about this. But as we just started to talk about what she is doing and how she is being in her life, it turns out there's a lot of ways that she's being spiritual that we don't even think of as spiritual. We think of spiritual or spirituality as practicing meditation, going to church or synagogue, praying or reading spiritual materials, having some element of a tradition or a ritual in our life that's related to our relationship to a higher power or an unseen guidance of some sort. So there's these limiting elements of what we say, oh, this is what spirituality is, or this is how I am spiritual or not spiritual, when in fact there's a lot of ways that we can be spiritual or are spiritual that are just natural in our inherent being. We are spiritual beings. We are connected to everything and everyone around us. We are spiritual beings in that we are this energetic vibration of the universe that happens to be in a physical body. So we are all one with everything, I believe. And because of that, then we are always on some level, some intrinsic level, relating to the world or to other people or to animals in a way that is spiritual, because we can't not. But defining those ways or distinguishing what those ways are is kind of a personal thing. So for instance, for me, I walk in nature every day. And in fact, it's really important to my well-being, not just my physical well-being, but my whole emotional, spiritual well-being, that I connect with the world, the outside world, because I'm one with the outside world. Even though most of us are inside, we disconnect ourselves from the idea that we're one with nature, but we're not. And these are these challenging places, and the dilemmas show up in our perspective and our interpretations to say, well, I'm not part of nature. I'm not part of the universe, but we can't be separate from that. So these rational, logical perspectives kind of separate us from our spiritual self, because we can't see our spiritual self, but we can't see our sexual self. We can't see our sensual self, but we are this relationship with all of those things at the same time. So for me, as I said, one of the things I do is be outside in nature. That's where I feel connected to myself and a greater sense of peace within myself, serenity. I also find that kindness, in fact, the Dalai Lama said that kindness is one of the greatest and most easiest spiritual practices to practice, is to demonstrate or share kindness with people. And that could be just a touch or a connection or a smile that creates a sense of that connection. So to me, kindness is a really easy practice of spirituality, as a spiritual practice. I keep repeating myself, but that's what's important here. Another thing that's really important is generosity. Now, people think generosity isn't giving money, but the truth is generosity of spirit is the most important part. That means how much of yourself do you give as an expression of yourself in the world? How much of you are you allowing to be you in the presence of other people? The generosity of you can come across as playful, creative, artistic. It can come across in any way imaginable. So that generosity of spirit is really, really important. And that also leads into gratitude, being thankful for what is. A friend of mine had this prayer that at first I hated this prayer. It was, "Oh Creator, I am grateful for the way that it is." And that to me was such a horrible thing because there were so many, the way that I looked at the world, there were so many problems and I was suffering in so many ways that there was no way that it was like, I'm not being grateful for how it is. But when I began to really pay attention to the gratitudes and taking on an attitude of gratitude, then I was able to start to slowly see the world differently. My interpretations shifted, the way my perceptions shifted. I was less judgmental of how it is, more accepting. All of these are elements of a spiritual practice. Acceptance is a big spiritual practice. Forgiveness is also a very important spiritual practice. Now, forgiveness is really challenging for most of us because we have to see others as, we see people as they're supposed to. They're supposed to know what to do. They're supposed to not hurt us. They're supposed to be how we think they should be. And when people aren't the way that we think they should be, we kind of take offense to that. And we might judge them as less than. And then for us to forgive them, oh, come now. We don't want to forgive people. And when we forgive people, sometimes it's from a place of judgment and righteousness. I forgive you because I'm a better person than you are. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about really allowing people to be who they are and seeing them that they're always doing their best. And be compassionate for so many people who we believe should know better, but they just can't do better. So these are all elements, and there's so many more, these aspects and these practices that we take on every single day that we're not even aware of yet, that are part of a spiritual presence within you in how you be in the world. So just think about that, and I would love to hear from you. I'd love you, if you have certain ways that you are spiritual that you'd love to share, I'd love you to put those in the comments below, and because I'd love to hear what you have to say. And if you have questions or specific dilemmas of dealing with these spiritual practices, I'd love to hear that too. And if you're interested in more of these videos, please subscribe and like so that I know that you're interested. I would love that. All right, thanks very much. Bye for now.